What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. This is TWA Motorsports, and today we're going to do a few little things to the red truck. Now, as you can see, it's wet. It's raining outside. It's absolutely disgusting. I can't even fathom how I did all this before I had a shop, guys. I am so truly blessed to have not only the stuff that I have in here, but to have a shop to work in. It is really exciting. But some of the things that I want to address on this truck, and mainly the only reason I'm doing this is because I need a part for the black truck, which you guys already saw that video, me reassembling that thing, but I need this bumper to put on that truck. So you've already seen it actually happen. We're kind of going back in time, but this video will play after the black truck video. But I do want to swap the bumpers out. This bumper is in really, really good shape. The only thing it has wrong with it, it has one little ding right here, but the old bumper on the black truck was completely destroyed, and I did buy a new one when I originally bought all the parts for the black truck to do it. And so I figured, since I'm keeping this truck and selling the black one, I'll put the new one on here, and we'll swap this one to the black truck. The other things that I want to do, I would like to get rid of the Silverado badge, the Chevrolet badge, the 1500 badges on the side. And then I want to scrape these stickers off the window because they are really annoying to me. I'm not much of a sticker guy. I probably put a TWA Motorsports. I say I'm not much of a sticker guy. I want my TWA Motorsports sticker on here. But as far as those go, they don't really make any sense for what I do. And then you guys know how I feel about long antennas. We are going to put a shorty antenna on. So not a lot of stuff, just some stuff I had laying around. Like I said, mainly because of the black truck that I had this stuff laying here. So I figured it's raining. I'm still waiting on parts on other stuff. So I might as well go ahead and do this, like I said, mainly because I need the bumper. So I think what we will do is we'll start with taking the stickers off the back glass, just because I hate the fact, I'm gonna let this kind of drip off a little bit. I hate working under a wet vehicle. It's just really annoying to me. So I'm gonna scrape that off. We'll probably go to the emblems next, then the antenna, and do the bumper last. So let's get you guys set up on a tripod, and we'll try to get these stickers off first. Now, normally to take old stickers off, I would use Windex, but my Windex is up in the top garage, and there's not a whole lot here. So we're just using a razor blade. This is actually pretty handy for scraping, especially like old inspection stickers off. I don't know if your state's like ours, but in Missouri, you have to have an inspection sticker in the window. And the guys that do inspections, they always just mangle it and they leave a lot of glue. So before I even go, I scrape my old one off just because I'm picky and I don't want a bunch of extra glue on there. So, and normally I would also use microfibers, but they are up in the garage too. Most of my cleaning stuff is in the garage. And I'm going pretty straight with the glass here, guys. You don't want to dig and grind on the glass. It will just scratch it. Just want to be real easy. And that one must not have been on there very long. Let's go get the one off the other side. Now, while I do think this one's pretty funny, I'm gonna take it off too. And it literally just says, cool Prius, you know, says nobody. And I do agree with that. Maybe there's Prius clubs out there that I don't know about, but I've never seen a Cars and Coffee with a bunch of Priuses. Now I gotta figure out where I'm gonna put my TWA Motorsports sticker. I don't have it out here right now, so we'll put it on at some point. That way when people hear this thing chopping, they can check out these videos of me removing stickers. That one's off. All right, let's move on to the doors, I guess, and see if we can get the trim out of the way. Unlike normally where I would time lapse you this, I'm gonna show you real time how long it takes me to do all this stuff. So the other thing is, guys, you know, originally I took all the trim off the black truck and found out it had been painted. This truck, this door has been painted. The other side has not. So whether that was a collision at some point, I don't think so, based off the looks of the truck. But you never know. So we could get this emblem off and be in the same situation, but this one's just a little better starting point, like I said. And I don't think I'm gonna have to get these real hot because there's not a lot to them. I'm just using some fishing line and just going back and forth behind this. And a lot of times if you're body shop, so let's say you had this thing painted in the past. It looks like they took them off. But if your body shop, let's say, puts these emblems on before the paint has cured, we may have a problem when we go here to our eraser wheel. But we're gonna see real quick. I'm hoping not to have an issue, but you never know until you try. If your paint is weak, this will find it. And you notice I'm not staying in one spot. We're just moving our way down, getting the glue. And I'm gonna paint correct this door at some point, because we're probably gonna see an outline here. But I'm not gonna worry about that yet. The main reason is because there's a few dings in the door that I'm gonna have my PDR guy mess with. They definitely took the emblems off when they painted the door, which is the correct, that's the correct way to do things. I'm just gonna take some of this 3M adhesive remover and we're gonna go over that area. Yep. My guess is whoever painted this truck did a good job, and they wrapped it really well in the inside. I don't even know that I could show you guys. They taped on a seam in the door, and so I don't know that you could even see it if I tried to show it to you. Yeah, we're gonna have to use a buffer on that because you can still see the outline of it, but that looks pretty good for now. Now this side, there was no signs of prior paint, which is good. I mean, finding one of these trucks, you know, like unpainted, unmolested, you're gonna pay a premium. And as you guys know, you can start with something like the black truck is not unworkable, but I really, really wanted red, and I really, really wanted a Silverado Stepside. So, as a matter of fact, when I talked to the paint guy that was gonna fix the rocker on the black truck, he said this is a good time to fix it because it's just barely got any. But I said, well, how much to flatten it out, you know, so I could wrap it? Or how much if you just painted it? And he's like, well, what color are you gonna wrap it? And I said, well, I was thinking maybe a teal or something, you know, I like green. And he's like, well, he gave me a price for that, but then I said, well, what if you painted it? And he's like, well, would you wanna paint it teal? And I said, no, I'd wanna paint it red. So that's the main reason. I mean, this truck needs paint technically too to be in my league of perfect, but for a daily driver, I may have some panels painted at some point, like on the top of the fender back there on the other side, but it's already red. I just figured it was a better starting point. Move this. I've just about worn my eraser wheel down to a nub. And this one's been on a lot longer, you can tell, because there's a way bigger dirt line on the top and the bottom. Been some touch-up paint put on this bottom panel. This one's definitely going to require the buffer on it. It's just been there way longer. Okay, onto the tailgate. The tailgate here is about the same situation as the door. It hasn't been painted that I know of from looking around. I always like to look before I do this, just because you want to be a little softer. First of all, you don't want to heat it up as much, and you don't want to be as aggressive with that wheel, the eraser wheel. Now, sometimes it's inevitable. If the paint underneath's crappy, it's going to come up. But if you get it really warm and it's cheap or junky paint, it'll also bubble. So I don't spend a ton of time with the heat gun unless the trim's really, really thick. Like these emblems are so thin that you probably don't even need to use a heat gun, to be honest with you. As a matter of fact, well, this would have been a better one to try. I was going to say I'll try the Silverado one without the heat, but it's actually thick. Your tailgate emblems generally have a bunch of dirt on them too, because all the dirt off the road lands on the back of the truck. Just cakes in those emblems. This one actually looks better than the one on the door. like to think if you guys see a truck rolling down the road with no emblems and you knew it had them, maybe they watched one of my videos and got the idea there. Just such a, on some vehicles, I like it. You know, like on my white OBS, I told you guys when it goes back together, I'm gonna be putting the trim back on the doors. And I just think that look on that truck, you know, like my 72 over there, the look of it with the trim, you know, I just, on those, I like it. And as a matter of fact, I've contemplated buying the trim that I took off the black truck, that chrome strip, to put on the doors of my green truck, because I kind of like that too. I know it's weird. Let's move to this other one, and we'll be finished with all the trim at least. I figured, like I told you guys, we may try it without the heat. You may break a couple pieces of fishing line. They've got gobs of that. I think it definitely goes easier when you use heat. Fishing line. Not too bad. What are we in this, like maybe 10 minutes to take all the badges off? Maybe a little longer. It's time for a new microfiber, that's for sure. All right, guys, let's move on to the antenna. So for the antenna, generally an 8 or a 10 millimeter gets it loose. In this case, it's an 8. It is the factory antenna, I believe. Set this here for now. And this is the same one I just put on the Sonoma GT. You guys have seen me put it on a couple times. But you may have to use the standoff for this one. This is what I was talking about in the last video on this thing. This thing comes with a couple standoffs and some extension pieces. So the reason on this I might choose to use that is because how far down it's tucked in. Like on the S10 or the Sonoma over here, it doesn't do that. Not really sure neither one of those fit. It comes with multiples in case you have, depending on what vehicle you have. That doesn't seem right either. So you just have to test it. Boy, none of these seem like they fit the way I want it to. This one screws down like 3 times and gets tight. So you're just gonna have to test. It comes with, like I said, multiple pieces here. You're just gonna have to test the ones that fit the best. So once you get the stud on the bottom there, then you'll put this guy, one of these in here, one on the bottom of the antenna, and you're good. I still don't love the way that one fits. Feels pretty snug though. It just only threads on like 1 or 2 times. That's the one. This one didn't thread on, I don't think. Nope. And nope. That one's for sure not it. So we're just gonna test until we find what we need. And that's it. Now, I'm gonna go get some tape and put on here and tighten it up, but definitely looks a lot better. If you don't wanna use a standoff, you don't have to. The problem is you're gonna have an issue trying to tighten that up because you can't get your wrench down in there. So you may have to take this piece of trim off, and I may end up doing the antenna delete like I did on my green truck. If you guys didn't check that video out, it's kind of cool. They make a piece for an Escalade that actually didn't have the hole here. That's discontinued now, but if you can find one in a salvage yard, you can move your antenna somewhere else and it looks a lot nicer. But that's all there is to the antenna. So now let's move on to what I really wanted to do here and been putting off, trying to let this thing dry a little bit, and that is the bumper. So since this truck's lowered, I am going to lift the back up a little bit so I'm not just like laying on the ground. I'm going to use my little creeper here. But I've got the front wheels chocked. We're just gonna lift in the center of the differential. We might slide a couple jack stands up underneath here just to make sure that it's extra stable. So I'm gonna go grab those and then we'll get underneath here and I'll show you guys. It'll be a little bit different than the black truck in the fact that it does have a hitch on it. So this guy actually added a hitch off of, I guess a buddy of his, he said had wrecked their car or truck, and so it had the factory hitch. So he went ahead and put that on there. I don't know how much hauling I'll actually do with this truck. I may occasionally grab a lawnmower and use my dad's little aluminum trailer, but we're not gonna hook up to this guy and try to go, you know, do anything real crazy with this truck unless we put some, you know, helper bags like my green truck has in it. But I don't even have a hitch on it. I just put those on there for ride, and then if I ever hauled anything in the bed, I thought that would be a good idea. So either way, I'm gonna jack this thing up, I'll get it off the ground, then we'll show you what you need to take off. Now that we got the truck up on jack stands, actually I have 4 of them under here. Got it somewhat off the ground here. But we're gonna take this off first, the hitch. So the very first thing you're gonna need to do is if you have any plugs, I've just got 1 plug here that they added on, I guess. But there generally is 8 bolts total. There's generally 3 here on each side, so 6. And then there's normally 2 that go into the bottom of the bumper, but they are not there. All of these should be 21 millimeter. And what I do is I take these 2 out on both sides first because they're 21s and they have a nut on the top. This back one has a nut built into the frame, so you do not have to do anything with that one. That's actually part of the bumper bracket as well. So what I'm going to do, and the reason I do that, guys, is if you try to take these out, once you get these out, it's gonna start to fall. I would rather be able to hold one side with and not have to hold the wrench on the top as well. So it makes it a little bit easier on you. So take the back 2 out first on both sides with the wrench on top. And then if you have help, it's awesome. If you have an extra jack stand, just put a jack stand under this thing and take the two 21s out. And then normally, like I said, there would be 21s here we'd have to take out, but we don't have those. So once we do all that, this thing will be loose and out of the way, ready for us to get to the bumper bracket itself. Now that we have that completely out of the way, it's actually sitting over here on the floor. You can see it over there. We need to take the bumper bracket loose. So there's several options here, guys, or several different ways to do it. You could try to unhook it from the bumper. I generally don't like to do it that way. You're probably gonna have to loosen the bed bolts. So there's a total of 8 bed bolts. One of them up top here, you can see my fingers pointing at it, hopefully. That's an 18. There's one there, there's one right there where that hole is in the frame, and then there's 2 up front. So a total of 8, and they're really easy to get to. It's not bad at all. So 18s, I'm gonna go ahead and whip all of those out. So all the 18s on both sides, you can see there's holes in the frame, and then on the front, they're on the actual outside of the frame. So you need to get those 8 bolts loose. We're just gonna have to lift the bed up just a little bit in order to pull the bumper out. Now, if you try to unbolt it back here, it just makes it a little bit harder, in my opinion, to get it out of the way. Now that's totally up to you. You know, you ask 10 different people 10 different ways. You know, it's some people like to do it the other way. I do not. So either way, once we get those out, so those 18s, there's 2 18s right here. This little piece that goes in, there's 2 studs, and then there's 18s on the back. So we'll have to get those out. And then the very corner of your hanger, so you see your hanger back here, your factory rear hanger, there is a 15 up in the very corner. Now this is a little bit cumbersome on a Stepside because the way the bed contours. So we're gonna get that 15, those 2 18s, and then normally this 21, but because we had to take the hitch out, we've already got the 21 out. So there's really only a total of 4 bolts on each side that actually hold this thing in place. The 21 here, the 2 18s on the back of the stud, and the 15. If you didn't have to take the bed loose, this 18 here could be left alone. But like I said, this is just, in my opinion, the easiest way. So I'm gonna whip all those bolts out, and then we should be able to maybe put a block of wood under the bed and kind of lift it up, maybe like a 1/2 inch. And I'll show you that before I pull this thing out. And that's pretty much it. We'll have this thing out of the way. Oh, one other thing, you do need to go ahead and unplug your wiring right here. See this? That very back one, we need to unplug that, otherwise you will be hung up when we go to take this thing out. I've got all the bolts out now, and you can see that I've got my jack with a piece of wood, and I'm just going on this leading edge of the bumper back behind here. Hopefully you guys can see that. So once we lift that up, it doesn't need to be much. Like I said, like maybe a 1/2 inch so we can clear those bumper brackets. There's already cutouts, but there's just not quite enough there to get it out without lifting the bed up. And like I said, I think this is the easiest way, especially if your bumper's used, because a lot of times those bolts are pretty rusty. So now that we've got that, we've got everything unplugged, we're just gonna pull this bumper straight out. You can see how easy that was instead of trying to reach back in there and get those. But we've got it out, sitting over there on the ground. But let's go over here and look at our new one, because obviously we've got a new one here. And so this came with, this is actually an aftermarket one, guys. The GM one, if you buy a GM bumper, unlike my front bumper on my black truck, it only comes with the bar. And so because when I was originally buying this, I was replacing the one on the black truck, I went with an aftermarket, and there's a couple reasons why. When I originally bought the one for my green truck over there, this one was on back order, or the one that fit my green truck. There's actually 2 different ones. This is a Stepside bumper, and the fleet side bumper is actually a different size. So they were out, so I tried this brand, and I'll list it in the description down below, and it's actually been a really good brand. So I don't have any complaints, to be real honest with you. I will tell you that it does come with all new bolts that you can see here, and it comes with new brackets. So this is taken apart very similar to the way you could take it apart if it were off the truck or that other way. You can see the brackets are separated. If you take it apart this way, then you don't have to lift the bed. But like I said, I don't really love that method. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna assemble some of this. It does come with new lights. I'm just gonna unclip the light harness off the bad one and move it over. And that way you don't really have to mess with that. But I am going to use a lot of the new bolts to put this thing together. But I won't show you guys that because it literally sandwiches together just like your factory one. You can take a look at your old one, line everything up, And I won't waste your guys' time showing me assemble that because there's not a whole lot to it. But then we'll get this one up into place. And it does have, as you can see, there's some cutouts where it can move these holes here. So you do have the ability to move it back and forth. So you're gonna wanna try to get it as close as possible, you know, making sure everything lines up. What we'll probably have to do is get the brackets all lined up and tight, and then we will move it to where we need it once the bed is actually down and tightened again. So not too bad. Now that I've loosely fit these on with the hardware supplied, I tried to make the bolts face the same way and everything. These are both loose, and we're gonna have to tighten all this stuff up once we get our alignment right. So at this point, I'm ready to go ahead and put this in, and I'm gonna worry about the lights and whatnot. So your wiring harness, I'll worry about that after, because they just literally pin in these areas here, these holes that you see in the bumper, and anything else. Really what I'm worried about now is just getting the alignment right, making it set in there like I want it to. And they do send you extra hardware, like this guy is going to thread up in the top if your original one does not. I think I remember my other one, the original hardware worked, and then this one is a new one for the bottom. Like I said, I don't think we're gonna need those. I'm hoping that it's threaded the same way as the factory, but if it is not, you at least do have new hardware for that. And then they actually sent several extras. You only need 2 bolts to put 2 bolts per side to put this bracket on, the separate bracket that didn't come already on the bumper. So I'm not really sure why they sent so many bolts. I guess maybe one of them was kind of cross-threaded, so I did switch to another one. So I guess it is good that they send extra, but let's get this thing at least set in there. We'll get the bed cinched back down, and then we'll kind of go with adjusting. I have it setting in there now. I actually just sat on my chair and let it rest on my legs while I lined it up. And it's looking pretty good, guys. So what I think I'm going to do, like I said, I'm gonna go ahead, drop the bed back down, and we're gonna go ahead and tighten all the bed bolts. That way the bed is where it needs to be, where it's gonna rest. And then I'm going to go ahead and put all the bolts back in the brackets, the ones that we took out. So the 2 18s that go on like this guy here, we're gonna put that in. We're gonna put the 15, if possible, up in the top like of the hanger. And then we'll try to put the 21 in just to get everything nice and stationary before we go adjusting on these bolts that were loose back here. Remember the ones that I said that you could potentially take off and do this differently. So another reason, other than, like I said, sometimes they're rusty, the alignment is gonna be pretty spot on when I slide this one onto the new truck. So I don't have to worry about messing with that. I can literally just bolt it on and go. But let's go ahead, get the bolts cinched down on the bed. And I won't show you guys that. We'll just put all 8 back in, let the jack down, and then we'll get, the next thing I'll show you is I'll have all those bolts tightened up. I'll let you know whether the original 21 threads in from the bottom or we have to use the new bolt. And the 15, same thing up in the top of the rear hanger. I'll let you guys know there. But the next thing I'll show you will be behind the bumper where we need to like move things around if we have to adjust anything. Got all of that tightened down. And got the bed tightened down. I've got all the bolts that hold the bracket on, and look how sturdy this thing is. Now it still has some movement because we haven't tightened those up, but you still have the ability to move it in a little bit. And guys, I actually think this fits pretty nice. Now there is a little bit more gap here than you had before, but you do have the ability to push it in a little bit. So I may mess with that, I may not. It just depends on how crazy I want to get underneath, and I really can't show you guys that. You can just kind of loosen up things on the inside, kind of move it forward, and that's the way you adjust it. I would like it to tuck up just a hair closer, but I can also live with this. I mean, the body lines on this thing aren't like super great. They're not like brand new cars, you know, we've got really tight bumpers and whatnot. But I also have the pins that hold this in, by the way. You guys are probably wondering, like, why is that like that? But I'm gonna see if I can move it in just a hair more. But if not, I'm not gonna fret about it. It looks really, really good. And I will have to say that the fitment is nice. It is nice that the 15 and the 21, the 15 that goes in the bottom here, and the spring perch or the shackle, it worked. It's the same thread. And the 21 that came in from the bottom that was pre-threaded on the new bumper bracket also fits. So if I can adjust it, I'll show you guys that. Other than that, the next thing I'm going to be doing is putting the wiring harness in and getting our lights hooked up. And I think for now I'm going to leave the hitch off just because I don't really care for the look of it per se. It's not so much that I don't care for the look of this piece here. It's this plug-in right here that I just think looks really tacky. So I may try to figure something else out to do with that. But for now, I'll see if I can mess with this, and then I'll come back and show you guys, you know, kind of what you need to do as far as the wiring goes. It's definitely looking a lot better. I was able to scoot it up as far as possible by loosening those 2/18s, the two nuts that go in on the frame. I was able to push it a little further, and then I went ahead and tightened up. It's 17 millimeter if you get this exact same bumper for the bracket that's behind the bumper, like back in this area. And then you have to tighten, there's a couple carriage bolts on the top here on the bottom where that bracket was swiveling. Those are 19 millimeter. Now I went ahead and tightened those up. And so the only other thing, guys, that I did was I went ahead and took the spare tire holder out. You can see it, the little reel over there. I took it out to 15 millimeter. And then I did go ahead and put my light harness in. I robbed it off the broken bumper because there was no sense in taking that one off and moving it here and then doing the same thing again. So I did go ahead and put it in. I'm going to show you that here in just a second. But a couple things that the bumper doesn't come with. It's not going to come with this guy, this little closeout panel that is for like that spare tire reel. And I don't like this anyway. I spent $75 on a GM one for my green truck over there. And the clip is incredibly hard to get off, and I just don't love it. So let me know, guys, if there's a plastic clip possibly, or a rubber square plug that I could put here, or maybe I should fab up something for maybe a backup camera. I'm not really sure, but I'm gonna leave it open because I just cannot stand that. Other than that, this bumper did come with your little inserts for your license plate, so I can go ahead and put those in place. And it also came with screws. While they're gold, I'm gonna go ahead and use them. But one thing it does not come with are these little rubber things. And guys, if you don't have these, your license plate is going to make all kinds of racket. It's gonna bump around. And these actually you can get, I'll link them down below. But I robbed these off the old broken bumper. Luckily it had them, a lot of times they don't. But these are also used for like a gas door, so to keep your gas door from slamming shut. So I did rob those off the old bumper, and like I said, you do want to put those on, otherwise your plate isn't going to set right and it's going to move all around. So let's get under this thing and I'll show you. This is the wiring. I robbed the bulbs. I don't have any LEDs that I can put in the license plate for now, but I want to show you guys how this harness hooked back up. So you can see it plugged in right here. And then it just snaps in. I took the clips off the factory bumper, and it snaps in holes that are already in the bumper, and then obviously you screw your lights back in. So we are completely finished getting the bumper on. Like I said, it doesn't fit like a, sorry, rub my camera across the, or the mic across the truck, probably got noisy. It doesn't fit like, you know, a custom. You know, if you were building this truck for show quality, you would want to close this gap up quite a bit. But what it does give you the ability to do is lift the bed out of the way if you ever have to service a fuel pump. And honestly, I think it's about the same as it was from the factory. But bumper looks really good, guys. I think at this point we are finished with everything I wanted to do on this. We'll try to step back and look at it once it's all on the ground. I think we are effectively done right now. The rain is still coming down. Hopefully it wasn't terribly loud through this whole video. Sometimes on this metal building when it's raining hard it gets kind of noisy, but I'm thinking it looks a little bit better. Definitely looks better with the 1500 gone. That was just a weird trim, you know, like the trim on the doors and whatnot on like your GMCs, that chrome belt trim, that doesn't look too bad. But the 1500, it just seems out of place. It's just randomly stuck to the door. I think it looks a lot better. Of course, the antenna, you guys know how I feel about those. And then the bumper. While, like I said, I don't know that it fits any worse than a factory bumper, I actually think it fits really nice, and it seems to be really well made, and it comes with all the hardware, and for a decent price, to be real honest with you guys. Just to buy these pieces, like this is about 80 bucks from GM. It's two separate pieces. I think this one's 80, this one's like 88, and this one's like 90, I believe. So you can get a whole lot of money wrapped up in this in a factory bumper. So I really think the aftermarket one, the one on my green truck, like I said, they were out and they are different. So the link that I'm gonna post here is for a Stepside bumper, guys. The aftermarket one for the green one you can find in the green truck videos. So make sure you get the right one because they are different. They're shaped different, the plastics are different. make sure you get the correct one for your application. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like I said, I'm not planning on a ton of stuff for this truck, but just cleaning it up, making it my own, and doing some of the little stuff that I like, you know, for a daily driver. It definitely is going to have some exhaust. The exhaust that is on it is ridiculously loud. I don't know if you guys got a peep of that while I was under it, but it's just a Flowmaster and some really crappy welding job. So I'll probably put some headers on it. So look for a video coming hopefully in the future pretty soon, because it is making me nuts to drive it every day right now. It is so ridiculously loud. But if you did enjoy this video, guys, like always, please smash that thumbs up button. If you are not subscribed, guys, please go down there, hit that subscribe button. While you're down there doing that, ring that bell icon that notifies you every single time we drop a new video. And stay tuned to see us do a few more things to this and then get back on all this stuff that you guys have been wanting to see.